put into the chat box your top five. Chat box actually gets recorded with everything else, so it would be nice to see everybody's and kind of have a feel for it. I can scroll through them as we work. A lot of you have already done that, and I appreciate you doing that. Didn't get a chance to say hi to all of you because they popped up while we're talking. If you haven't posted those, I sure appreciate you popping those in there, and it'll enrich our conversation as we go through the rest of this. Um, so let's talk about terminology for a second or two, and then we'll get into the activities where you can have some participation in all of this. Let's talk about talents first. Remember that the CliftonStrengths assessment was based on work by Donald Clifton at the University of Nebraska when he originally started looking for ways to place people in work based on what they do naturally or what they are most engaged in. So the research that he did was around interviewing people that were excellent at their jobs, regardless of the job, at whatever level, multiple levels of jobs, thousands of people. And then his research assistants and he pared that down into some what they identified as talents. They were naturally instinctive, intuitive, reoccurring ways of thinking, feeling, and behaving. So they are intuitive to you, right? They are who you naturally are in a way of how you think and approach things. Um, I define them sometimes as I cannot not be that way. As even here, I have to consciously try to slow myself down a little bit because of my activator is my number one theme. And so I move pretty quickly through things, and I move quick enough that sometimes I can certainly make some mistakes and then go back to fix them. Some of you in this group, I noticed, have maximizer and you have discipline, and you just cringe at some of the mistakes that I could make. You may find them on these slides. You may find a typo, and it just takes a breath. Um, and that's your natural way of thinking and feeling, and my natural way is to move really fast. The good news is that we can partner together and find great ways to make great things happen. Um, so the talents are potential strengths. They're not strengths in themselves. Okay, they're just the way you think and feel and behave, and they are probably have been there since very young childhood, if not before that. There's probably some debate on where they come from or when, but they certainly are in life most of the time. And I bet you can think back if you know some of your, somebody just posted here. Connie, you just posted, you have competition. I'll bet when you were younger, you still had that competitive spirit. And I don't mean you like to compete, I mean you like to win. But you always had that feeling of trying to compete against a number or compete against someone in order to be the best and to be number one and win, which is where you get your energy, is when you succeed by winning. And I bet you've been that way most of your life, rather than it being just something that just happened when you took the success. So natural, occurring, instinctive, intuitive ways of feeling, believing, behaving. By the way, he disproved his hypothesis. His hypothesis was that certain themes and certain talents would work best in certain careers. And although there is some work back in that direction through Gallup in very large scales with a different kind of approach, they aren't. And what we found is that these naturally occurring talents are the way you think, but you can apply them to many different situations. And so there are faculty, for instance, in higher ed that have every kind of theme on across the rainbow, every category and every way, and are very successful. There are great airline pilots that have every one of these themes in one way or another, and are great airline pilots. So it doesn't work as a selection tool. But what he did find out is that his research assistants, by becoming more aware of their own natural talents and learning to apply those in their schoolwork and their research, became better researchers and better students and human beings. And so the paradigm was reached from that these are ways to improve your life, excuse me, and ways to improve your work life, your personal life, and the way that you become successful in life in a more generic way than it is a selection tool. I would caution you very carefully about ever using it as a selection tool. So it is important to understand they describe us. They're not labels. It is the difference for me, because I do a lot of DISC work as well, between DISC and strengths. DISC has a tendency to push toward a label of DISC for those of you that have done it. It's different than that. Great facilitators take it out of those boxes, but it does have that sense to it. Strengths has, so many different talents and so many different combinations. You're 1 in 33 million of the same strengths that you have in the same order, and that's pretty unique. But they do describe us. I do have command. I am seen as somebody that has a presence in the room and likes to have autonomy and be in control of myself. And I am activator. I do talk faster. I do move faster. I do take a little less time and a little less cautious in doing things. So it does describe me. I think they describe all of you. It does influence our choices. You choose your jobs. We have a lot of learner in higher ed. Why? Because learners are attracted to learning, and therefore they're in higher ed, not because they're better at it, because they only hire people with learner, but because you were drawn to it. It certainly doesn't mean for any of you that don't have learner in your top 10, you're not good in higher ed at all. Just the opposite in many cases. But it does influence our choices. You pick the professions you're in. You connect and do your job in that way. It directs our actions, explains why we're good at some things. And I'd like to add to that and why we're not so good at others. I think one of you had discipline very high, and I think that, well, Monica, you have it, for instance. I know you have discipline in yours, and I think, Kelly, you had high on yours. Discipline is that organization theme that really puts things in order. There's a place for everything, and everything needs to kind of be in its place. It is number 34 on my list. It is dead last. So I am not somebody that has a lot of discipline in that definition along the way. So when it comes to doing things that require great detail of putting things where they belong, putting things where I can find them easily, I'm not naturally good at that. And I would not volunteer to be the one that filed and color coded and put everything away in a meeting or in a team. I just would not be my first volunteer. You asked me to do it, I'd work hard at it, and I'd probably find a partner. But I'd work hard at it. I'd be okay. I'd get it done, but it would not be nearly as effective as somebody like mine. It also filters our worldview, and I'm going to suggest this is maybe as powerful as anything with what we're talking about here in crisis, is that we see the world through our lens. And I'll use my example again of activator, that kind of quick thinking, moving. I get impatient quickly when people have a lot of deliberative and they're moving slow and they're very thoughtful and they're thinking it through and being cautious. I just get impatient with it. Now, have I learned to use that productively? Yes, most of the time. Okay. But it takes effort, and it's not something that comes naturally to me. So I see the world through my lens. I have a lot of ideas. I'm a very strategic thinker. Sometimes I'll be working on a project, even with my wife, who doesn't have the strategic theme like I do. She has a lot of execution themes and gets stuff done so well and is so good at it. But sometimes when I'm thinking about how we're going to approach something, I think in a very strategic way, and I do a lot of what if thinking. And this drives her nuts because of her focus. She's goal oriented with a focus theme. So I see the world through that strategic lens as I move forward. So we all see the world through our lens. What we have to learn from that is the value of seeing other people through their lens and seeing the value of those other lenses and how the world doesn't work unless we have all of those lenses focused on the problem. That if everybody was like me, the world would be terrible. And we need that diversity. I actually think there's a greater diversity in strengths and strengths talent than there is in many of the other ways of speaking about diversity. That does not lessen the impacts. I talk about diversity and inclusion being anything less than it is, and the issues that we have in this world around those problems. We deal with that in our society. But I'm going to suggest that if we just looked at everybody through the value of their strengths, the value of their talents, we would ignore their gender and their race and their religion and all that stuff. We'd just be thinking about their talents. How can they best help us make the world a better place, or our job easier, or our lives better? So, again, talents are potential strengths. So they couldn't create, when Donald Clifton had all this data and he needed a place to put it, he bought Gallup. Yes, he bought Gallup. Gallup was a very small computer organization at that time doing some polling. He bought it. It's owned by the Cliftons still to this day. Donald's passed away. His son Jim is the CEO. But it's a family-owned business. and they had to reduce the number of talents from 400 or 500 down into something that was measurable in an assessment. So they grouped them, and I hate to say this, but they sat around a kitchen table with a bunch of beer and stuck these things into buckets. Um, and they have changed in time, by the way. When they originally did it, some of the phrases were different at the top. They weren't executing, influencing, relationship, and strategic. They were different. And some of the categories, some of the themes in those categories were slightly different. This particular paradigm that we use so often nowadays comes from the book Strengths-Based Leadership by Tom Rath. And they did this in order to help you understand why leaders are great regardless of where they come in a strengths paradigm. Some are very much executors in their life, and they're still great leaders. Others are great influencers, relationship builders. Here's the caveat, and it's a great warning, and I believe this with all my heart. Be really careful because you tend to box yourself. I could look at this and say, I don't have any execution in my top 10, therefore I can't get anything done. And I wonder how I survive, and I would never volunteer to do something because I can't get it done. Well, that's just not true. I get things done through my influencing and strategic, and even my relator. I connect with people that have the talents that I need, but I do it through my influencing and strategic. I get stuff done really well. I get it done on time, and I work hard at it, and I don't have any trouble executing. Some of you say, well, I don't have any relationship themes in my top 5 or my top 10. That doesn't mean you don't have relationships. It just means you come about them differently. I have one in my top 10 that's relator, which is that deep connection with fewer people. I like to kid that I have 3 good friends that I'm not really looking for 4th. That's what relator is in steroids. It's without any of the other relationship themes. But I have a lot of relationships, a lot, and I enjoy them. Doesn't mean that I do them through this particular, but it was a way for us to group them. The other thing I want to say is the words don't necessarily mean what they said. I think, Tanya, I think I mentioned that you had competition. Here it makes it sound like you like to compete. I would suggest, and you're welcome to unmute even and talk about it if you'd like to, or put in the chat room, that it's not just about loving to compete. It is the energy comes when you win. You succeed against a measure of some kind, whether that's against yourself or a measure. It's not about competing, it's about winning. As a matter of fact, it's really about not losing. That's where the pain is, and the great words come with win. So it should be called winner, right, rather than competition, but obviously words don't work. So just don't tie too much to the word. If you want to know about somebody's talents, ask them and then listen to what they say. Some of you that might have been around me before in other sessions know how often I say ask and listen, ask and listen. Don't just look at their top 5 and say, oh, I know who they are. You ask them, how does that help you? Monica, how does your discipline help you in your job of keeping track of all the things you do at the Chair Academy and trying to keep us all organized and keep all the reservations and the hotels and all these events that you have organized? And you can tell us how you use your discipline to do that. That might be quite different than a had discipline that you use it maybe quite differently, even though it's the same theme. So we have to talk to people. So themes are neutral. They're not good. They're not bad. They're not strengths. They just are. And isn't bad. Bad theme. It's a good theme. It's a neutral theme. It can be a good theme. It can be a bad theme. Same way with activators. Same way with deliberative. Same way with harmony. All can be good and they all can be bad. So we'll call them neutral. Not labels. I'm going to suggest you always look for the positive. You always look for how these themes can be used in the best. Differences or advantages, and strengths only work in relation with other people. Okay? It's always about how it affects other people. So all that, we haven't gotten to strengths yet. Well, here's strengths, and then we'll move on to getting you some of the stuff that some of your activities, and talk about your strengths a little bit here. Talents, those natural ways of thinking, feeling, and believing, can be developed. You can manage them and learn how to use them. You mix them with a specific set of skills and knowledge. That's your choice of experience. That's your choice of education. That's your choice of which jobs you're in and how you're learning. So you can aim those at a specific place. We talk about people wanting to change the world, and we say, well, that's not very specific. So tell me how. And they go, well, I want to be a nurse. And you go, okay, so you need to go to school and be a nurse, and you need to get skills and knowledge around nursing. Well, I'm going to suggest that it's quite different to be a trauma nurse than it is a hospice nurse. And so your skills and knowledge that you develop may be the same set of 5 themes, but you're gonna address them quite differently with a different set of skills along the way. And I think probably some people with certain themes are drawn toward one of those than the other. But that doesn't mean that they can't be good at either one. Apply the skills and knowledge. So if we do that and we develop them and we learn to use them at the best, then they become productive. And talents used productively are strengths. So when I'm using my command in a setting like this, and I'm able to feel okay being kind of just in charge of this and running the webinar, keeping it on track and designing the material and all those things, I'm very comfortable with that, very comfortable with that. And that's a good thing. In some meetings in the district, when I was involved in a lot of district level meetings at the colleges, I was able to be the one that spoke up against truth to power sometimes, and not rudely, not disrespectfully in any way, but I'm the one that could be able to say, wait a minute, did we think of this? And not be afraid to say that. I was sometimes overly unafraid to say that. That's a strength if it's used productively. But when I come home and my wife has harmony, and I try to use that in the same way I might use it in a setting like that, it's not productive. It's very non-productive, and therefore it's a weakness. It's not a strength any longer. It's still a talent, still who I am. It's still where I get energy, but it's not being used in a productive way. So it's all about how we use these talents. They're all neutral. They all have the potential for being strengths. I suppose they all have the potential of being underused or overused or misused in order to not create outcomes that are positive, and therefore they're no strengths. You even call them weaknesses, things that hurt you. I did want to share with you two of the resources that you may or may not know about. They're a little newer. The Gallup Access platform came out around Christmas time. For those of us that are connected with Gallup and are certified coaches and do a lot of work with Gallup, this was a struggle for a lot of us because it was a pretty dramatic change. And those of you that have been through big software changes at your colleges know that they don't always go as smoothly as you wished. But I think everything is really ironed out now, and it's really working well. There is an app. You can go on either iPhone or your Android phones and download the Gallup Access app. And in that, you log in with the same login however you took your strengths originally, whether it was a Strengths Quest or strengths.com websites that you might have, whether it was from a book. No matter how you took it, doesn't matter. You created a username and a password. And if you log in with that, forgot your password, just click it. They'll send you a new one. Log in with that and all your themes come up and a good explanation of each, a video of each, lots of learning resources, and also ways to build community so that you can share your themes with others. I think, again, it was Kelly. I believe you brought your team with you. I got that right, that it was Kelly that did that. I don't know if you had looking. Chat room. You can easily, once your team has taken this, you can create a community in the app or on the website, and you'd be able to then download a team matrix, which is something like that chart that we saw with the themes, only it would mark you as a team and where you fall in that, and you'd be able to see each other's themes and communicate. So I encourage you, if you're working with students, this is a great way for them to connect with their strengths. They don't have to print out the reports. The report is right there, lots of information. So it's a good app. Not all apps are good. And the old Gallup Strengths app was not good. I mean, it wasn't bad. It just didn't do anything. You pulled up your top 5 and that was it. Now you've got a lot of rich content. The website now that hosts the Strengths for Gallup outside of higher ed. Higher ed is still strengthsquest.com. They are interchangeable. It's the same password. It's the same platform. Higher ed, strengthsquest.com has some teaching tools, and it's kind of set up for the students to take their strengths, or obviously employees, but a lot of that is very connected to the higher ed world. Whereas the Gallup.com access platform is for non-higher ed, just general public, business, individuals. There are some tremendous learning resources on this website. So if you log in and your strengths come up, your reports will come up, all of them in one place. And then there's some great videos, great learning tools, activities, all kinds of things here that I think you find really powerful. And if you're buying codes for a group, if since you're buying them for your college, you're using Strengths Quest or you're using Access, you can house themes or your access codes in one place, and you can manage code access. You can also create your community. If you're confused, I'm talking about my top 10 and number 34, and you go, well, I only got my top 5. I don't understand. Some of you don't have your 34, and that's why we're focusing primarily on your top 5 here today. But if you want your 34 report, it is available. It's on the Gallup Access website. It's also on Strengths Quest. Go either place. It's $40. It is an upgrade. You do not retake it. If you want to retake it, it's 50. You just start over like you've never had it. But I wouldn't suggest doing that. The change is minimal. Most people see a change of 2 themes in their top 5. And if they had their 34 reports, they'd find out they were probably 6 and 7 in the previous take, and they just slid up a little bit. So I would encourage you to consider your 34 report if you're ready for that, if you feel like you've had enough development. If you have questions about that, just email me. I'll be glad to share a sample copy of the 34 report, of my 34 report, so you can see what it looks like. It's 25 pages long and got some good stuff in it. We can also have chats. I'm willing to have, there's 9 of you on this session. I am more than willing to have a one-on-one conversation with any of you. Obviously, I hope no cost or anything, just you have a conversation. So if you want a strengths coaching session, and let's chat for 30 minutes or an hour about your strengths and how they one-on-one, I'd be happy to do that. My email's in the materials here, and it'll be again. Just email me, and we'll set that up. Glad to do that. It's a quote that I really like is, despite the myth that I can be or do whatever I desire, a truism to be sure, but a truism we often defy. That's that belief that no matter what, you can be it, right? Dream it, you can be it. And lied to us when we were children. We can't be great at it. We might be able to do it, but we can't be great at everything. Our talents just tell us that we're really, really good at some stuff. And I think, oh, by the way, thank you, Tanya, for putting it up there. I think we have to learn that there are ways that we excel and there are ways that we don't, and to best adapt to those. So what Parker Palmer says, who is a higher ed philosopher, by the way, if you haven't read Parker Palmer stuff and you're in higher ed, I would encourage you to go online, read a couple of his essays, and then if you really like it, consider one of his books. And what he says is our creative natures make us like organisms in an ecosystem. There's some roles and relationships in which we thrive, and there's others which we wither and die. I often tell a story of a young lady I was coaching that was a data entry person in the back office of a dentist office. She was miserable, horrible, just hated her life, hated her job. It was just awful. And she came and had an opportunity to take strengths, and we talked. Well, all of her strengths were in that very outgoing communication, influencing, and relationship themes. Very outgoing and very pleasant, and just a really dynamic personality. But she was locked in an office doing data entry and doing it fine. She wasn't making mistakes, but she hated it. So I suggested she go ask to be the receptionist for the dentist. And of course, the great end of that story would be if the dentist said, "Oh yeah, we want to use your talents to the best interest." What he said was, "I hired you to be a data entry person. Go back to your office." And my next suggestion to her, when she came quite upset by that, was, then we need to figure out a way for you to quit, because you're not ever going to be happy in that closed office without social connections, data entry. Well, she became the leading salesman for a dental product in southwestern United States. But it took some time. She didn't walk in and quit the next day, but she started to work and develop understanding what kind of a work environment she would best thrive in along the way. So I encourage you to think like that. Is thinking about thriving in how we thrive in the situations we're in right now. How can you make the best of this? These are some unbelievable opportunities at our fingertips right now to change the world, to use this as a lever to make things even better than they were. And I'd like to see us trying to figure out how to do that. Right now, the world doesn't care if you thrive. I mean, yeah, there's some Facebook posts, everybody being nice to everybody, and there's out their balcony singing songs. That's all great stuff. Don't get me wrong. But is that really directed at you to make sure you thrive? Yes, some. But is that enough? Right now, you're just trying to survive. You're just trying to figure out how to do all this stuff from home and not feel isolated. not feel left behind, not feel guilty that you're not at work doing the work that you thought you were paid to do. A lot of emotions going on in this remote working environment and in the world. You know, what's going to happen to the economy? What's going to happen to us? What's going to happen to our parents if they're elderly? Or me, I'm on the edge of that at-risk group. What's going to happen? What's the world going to look like after this? So right now, we feel like we're just trying to survive. Well, how can we apply what we're doing to make ourselves thrive? Well, here's the answer to that. The way the Gallup development tool works is that we name them. In other words, you get to know what your themes are by name and definition. So we read them, we study them, we go, yep, yeah, okay, now I understand what command is: activator, discipline, focus, arranger. I know what they are. I read them, I understood the words. And yes, now I underline all of those sentences and I can say, I agree with those. That does seem to describe me. But the next step is to claim them, is to say, how do I use those in my life? How have I gotten better at what I do because of those talents? When faced with a problem, how do I react using my talents? When faced with success, what energized me at the end of that to say my talents contributed to that? So we do some back looking to say, how have we used it? And then we do some forward looking to say, how can I use them? So I've got a situation, I have a relationship problem, I have a difficult conversation coming up, I manage these people. How can I use my talents, my natural ways of thinking, feeling, behaving to have the best outcome possible? How can I be my best self? So that's what that claiming piece is. It's how to appreciate your talents in your life. No longer that naming level, which is just kind of consistent across the board for everybody. Claiming is understanding how it fits you. How do you connect with your particular themes? And that's all good stuff, and you need to do those things. But the point that where this really takes off is the aiming part. Seen that little video where it compares fireworks to the space shuttle. You know, you go to a strength session somewhere, and most of you have been through one. There's excitement, and it's fun, and wow, this is me, and you laugh, and you talk about your talents, and you know, it's all good stuff, and you leave there a little energized. But if you leave there and just like a fireworks show, you go, you know, we're done with the show. That was great. And tomorrow it was like, yeah, that was a good show. That's good. But if that was just the start, aiming that effort and that excitement toward a very, very precise outcome out in the future somewhere, then strengths has its most effect. So a lot of our coaching with students, our advising with students is to help with it have strengths, to help them point their strengths at their specific outcomes. Maybe that is passing the test this week. Maybe that is passing their math class. Maybe that is graduating. Maybe that is getting a career. I don't know what their point is that they're aiming, but what our job is to help them understand how they use natural talents to accomplish it. So here's a question. I was with a virtual group that I'm consulting with a college in Wisconsin, and we had a group of almost 20 people in the room at the time, and we actually went around the room. And I think with 8 or 9, we probably have a minute or two if you're willing to speak. If not, you can put this in the chat room. We asked the question, what themes are you using right now in this different world? So what I'd like to I'd like to ask you and have you communicate. And again, you can go just unmute and speak up. If 2 people speak at once, we'll just wait and somebody else can talk in a second. It usually works out pretty well. Are there themes that you're using more now than you were using, that you've really kind of dug down into and you've leaned into them, is the word we use, leaned into our themes? And are there some themes that you're inhibited, you're not being able to use, that you wish you could use more, and this new world is kind of holding you back from using those themes along the way? I'll shut up for a second, give you a chance to either talk or you can chat if you don't. Just unmute. I think April was the only one that I muted. Mute you, April, if your owner back. Who would like to contribute to the group learning here?
Hi, Scott. This is Monica. How are you doing?
Good, Monica. How are you?
Doing excellent. Thank you. Hello, everybody. I work at the Chair Academy, and we are still going on as everything is just the same. We are hoping that everybody is well, is safe. Please, please stay home, stay home, stay home. Other than that, we use our strengths every single day at the Chair Academy. It's part of our basic foundations. And I have found that during these times that I am relying heavily on what I am good at. I wish I did have more empathy. I wish I did. There's some strengths that are lower and I rely on them once in a while, but I realize that using my top 5, I'm able to help my family, my children when they have questions. I'm strategic and I'm a maximizer. And so I look at different options that we can get through this together. At the Chair Academy, same thing. We're a great team because we come with so many different strengths. And so as I don't have a lot of relator or empathy, maybe somebody else on our team does, they come up and they go, hey, we can do it this way, this way, this way. So I rely heavily on my strengths.
Okay, how are you able to use right now your communication and your woo, which is your desire to be able to communicate well with people and also to be able to connect with a lot of people over a given period?
Yes, I have a lot of strengths in the influencer area. And so, yeah, I tend to be the cheerleader. I tend to try to bring the sunshine and we're all going to be a little down once in a while. But I have found because it comes naturally to me that I can easily do that. I can easily give to others when they can't. If somebody's spiraling down, I said, hey, you got to remember the positive. So I tend to be the cheerleader.
Good. That's a great use of your talents in this time. So who else? I saw Tanya, I saw you turn your web camera on.
I did. I think you asked us earlier to do it, but I wasn't sure whether I understood correctly or not, so I can turn it back off if it's better if we don't.
Oh, no, I like it on. I would love it if everybody's was on. It creates community, and I think that's important to us right now.
Right. Well, I must admit that I was not very happy when we were kind of suggested to take this strength test. I don't know. It was just in my head. Once we have done them, I was, I know it's a very useful tool. It's very useful to know it, and I was happy with it until I came to the competition part. And and as I started reading that one, I know earlier you said this would be more named the winner or winning, and I completely agree with that, but I don't quite fully identify with the way how it's described, because I see competition and I see myself within that much differently than how it is. I do not believe in winning at any cost. I do believe that win is a win-win on both sides and things like that. So that's why I was a little bit, but yeah, and but I think to a certain extent it has to do. I am not naturally good at communicating, especially maybe more so in English, and that's why for me it's harder to understand how my other strengths are normally just more instinctive than that I could, rather than I can say what how they relate.
Sure. You probably could print out your strengths report in I think there's 15 languages that it's able to be printed out in, if that would help. But yeah, I think you make a great point about competition or about any of them. The way Gallup writes this stuff out may or may not be the way it connects best with you. So you have to understand how it impacts you and if it does or if it doesn't. Gallup doesn't know your talents, you do. But I think you said it well, that competition is very different for different people. But what it suggests in general is that you get energy when you win. Now that can be win-win, that can be win against a number, that could be win within yourself, but that brings you energy is the winning. It's not so much a negative that I got to beat somebody. It's the energy that comes with that completion by winning. So
yeah, I think I just need to change my filter, the way how I get all this through.
Good. Is there one of these of yours, your achiever and restorative and competition and relator and intellection, that you're using a lot now in this virtual world of working at home, or is it not changed much for you?
Yes, achiever. I think I am going too fast. I want things to be done really well to the great detail, and I think I am trying to get ahead of curve. And when it comes to that, that brings a lot of obstacles because, you know, as the first one, you usually have to figure out things that were not figured out yet. So I think the achiever, I think I need to tone it down a little bit.
Yeah.
So it makes sense that it's at the top. It's automatic to the point that it gets me anxious sometimes because I am not doing it consciously, but it's just an automatic way I approach things.
No.
Well, and I think that's really well said. And by the way, some of you that are managing others, or Tanya, I'm not sure your role, maybe you said that, is that you make sure that you have clear expectations of what's expected of you in this environment so that you have your to-do list, right? If that's not something you create on your own, make sure that whoever is your supervisor or whoever you're working with, make sure that it's clear what's expected of you during these times. That'll help you.
Yeah, it's a little bit harder because expectations right now are a little bit out in the air and everyone is trying to define them. I'm also in a position where I only have a director above me, and I'm in position where I am defining the process, and so I have to make those clarifications for.
Yes,
Yeah.
I think you're right. And now those are great conversations now to have with that director, is to say, look, I have this need to have this to-do list every day so that I can check them off and get energy from that from my achiever. So let's talk about what it is that you think I should be doing. And they may be confused too, but you can talk about it together and get yourself better organized in that way. So yeah.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else willing to share before we move on? I'd love to hear from anybody else that's willing to chat or put this in the chat room. Any strengths you're using? I see some of you are logged in and you're, I know you're doing several things, which I do all the time on webinars, but I'd love for you to jump in anywhere you can. It really helps. Tanya and Monica, thank you so much for sharing, because I think that helps everybody along the way. Anybody else, just unmute and jump in, okay? Anywhere along the way. Okay, so let's give you a minute to think about this. For each of your 5, and those of you that haven't taken it yet, you can just kind of have that conversation in your group a bit, just in generic ways of what you believe you bring to this world right now. Okay, it doesn't have to be around the CliftonStrengths language. They not only drive our thoughts and feelings, behaviors, but we also have needs from other people. So what I'd like to hear, or have you jot a note or two, and then maybe we can chat about it again here, is of your themes, any of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them, whatever you want. What do you bring to what's going on right now, to your virtual teams, to your family? This does not have to be about work. This could be about anything going on in the world. What do you bring? Somebody with achiever, Tanya just mentioned achiever. I bet she brings this intensity and stamina, and she wants to get it done, and she's always energized to do that. And in this setting, as she said, sometimes it's going really slow. And I mentioned to her that one of the things might help is a better to-do list that she's probably creating for herself, but maybe there's a way to develop that in a way that your organization and your team is supporting that as well. My command, I bring emotional clarity. I'm really direct. You know where you're coming from with me. You know how I feel, and you know exactly where things are. I'm very direct in that way. And I think that builds great trust. But what I need the autonomy to do it my way. I don't do well being micromanaged or being directed. I do well with give me an outcome, give me a deadline, give me the expectations really clearly, and then a little bit get out of my way and offer me your support. Well, that's me. Not everybody wants that. So I have to then ask for that. So if you take a minute, jot yourself a note or something, and anybody that would post, one of the things I'm going to talk about in the next session, as a matter of fact, in our productive conflict that I'm doing at an hour after this one's over, or just a little more than an hour from now, is the role of relationship in this crisis. And we're having a different way of connecting with other people. This is virtual. This is through Zoom. This is through this meeting. This is different. We're not in our office. We can't walk next door. People aren't walking by us. We're not walking out to lunch or walking in the morning and seeing people. We have to create that community. And one way to do that is through these webinars. And one way to do that is to don't be afraid of turning on your webcam. We don't care what you look like. We don't care what your house looks like. We don't care if your dogs are there. We don't care if your kids are sitting on your lap. We love that, because that helps us create community. And the other piece is to unmute and jump in and participate with what we're doing here right now is just to jump in and ask a question or contribute in any way you wish to do so. I'd love to hear from you and love to see you. Hi, Kevin. I saw you earlier when you logged in a little early. Appreciate you being here. So who could share just something about what you bring to the table with a strength and maybe what you need from the people around you or some other resource?
Hi, it's Kelly Doyle. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, Kelly. Thanks.
Okay. So for within my top 5, I have empathy and strategic. So I feel like they're in full blown capacity right now.
Yes, I'll bet.
So how I'm trying to apply empathy is to trying to connect with managers to give them some supports on how to create community with their teams now that they're all dispersed everywhere.
Yes.
And then also as a college community through social media, trying to encourage people to support one another online, to encourage people to check in with each other, have those virtual coffee breaks or whatever.
Right, right.
Don't be isolated. So I feel that empathy piece is really coming to play right now. And then the strategic, I would say, is also because we're having to look at different ways to support people where it normally would be done face to face. So it's been a busy few weeks that way, but it's thankfully because those are in my top 5. It's been a natural skill to apply, but the one I'm struggling with is one of my top ones is discipline, and that means I really like structure and routine. Mm-hmm. So all of a sudden, having no structure and routine is challenging.
Sure. Can you? Okay, so let's talk about that one for a minute. I'm going to suggest. I thought your empathy and strategic explanation was awesome. You're bringing a lot to your organization, and I originally was going to say, well, what do you need from them to encourage you to use those? But let's go to the discipline one for a minute. So you bring a sense of structure and organization to anything you do. Well, you're struggling with that right now because you're in an environment that maybe doesn't have as much as that as you'd be comfortable with. So what do you need from the organization to help you feel like you've got more control over the organization, over the structure and the timing and the regularity of what you're doing? What could you ask for?
Well, what I have asked for, and I'm finding this week is meeting that, is I'm asking for more set meetings. So instead of doing, let's check in tomorrow, I'm having to do let's book the time now, and then we can have that time. Because I'm just feeling that because the structure is so loose right now, that the last few weeks, I feel like at 7 a.m. I had to be on my laptop and get going, and then stop, get lunch for people, go back to work, get dinner for people, and then go back to work. And I was just exhausted. But because I felt like I didn't have that structured in the day, I had to keep going. Like, I know it sounds odd, but that's how it was. And I feel like
that's not odd at all. You're not alone in that feeling at all.
Mm-hmm. So I'm feeling more structured now. Like, I feel like I have those set meetings. I have the regular check-ins, and I feel like that's starting to help.
Good for you. As I told you, I work with several colleges and do a lot of individual coaching. And one of the messages that I'm spreading really strongly is for managers is they need to have a daily meeting with their team. Daily. And they kind of look at me, well, I don't want to interfere with them. And I know, no, they need that. What great leaders can do right now, Kelly, is to bring 4 things. They can bring hope, stability, compassion, and trust. And I think your themes fit that very, very well. Your empathy and your strategic and your discipline can bring those to groups around you. And you may need to encourage others in the college, which you're doing with your empathy. You communicated that so eloquently, to use your strategic to leverage your sense of empathy, not just feeling everybody's emotions, but helping the organization recognize others and how they are feeling. I think you can do that with your discipline as well. And I think you can leverage that sense of discipline because everybody needs that. And if you met every day at 10 o'clock and all it was a 30-minute check-in, what are you working on? What are you struggling with? Tell me about your family. Tell me about whatever you want to talk about. It could be have an agenda, and I understand as somebody with discipline, you may like an agenda, and that's fine. But also give time for the social connection. Let them put their dog on their webcam. Let the kids run in and out of the room once in a while and not be at all disturbed by that. And I think you'll build that sense of compassion and stability with employees. So I would encourage you to use your discipline to encourage the organization to have managers do that on a regular basis. Check in at a certain time every day with the team on video, build community that way and have structure that way. Yeah. Well said. I appreciate you sharing.
In the video.
There you go. There you go. All right. Good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah. It does. It just changes the atmosphere a little bit. We're all in here together. So anybody else? Anybody else want to talk about their themes? This is awesome. I really appreciate that.
This is Kelly from Durham College, and just to sort of carry on what Kelly Doyle has said,
Yeah.
I have set up daily team meetings. I come from a different area of the college where we're operational. So we run a restaurant, we run a food service. So we don't there's stuff for us to do, but we're usually hands-on, face-to-face operational. So we're having daily meetings. And today we got to a point where we sort of felt like there wasn't much on the agenda. What I'm doing is coming back to them daily with any college-wide updates. So I think that's the includer in me. So they know what's happening at a college level and I can bring that to them. But what we decided today is on Monday, we're going to have a break from all the business and do a little more of a social aspect and do like a trivia game or do something different just to change it up for them.
I think that's brilliant. I think that's a really good idea. What I've found now in the followers and in people on teams, some of them feel guilty because they are working at home and maybe, some of us at first, I get to sit on my couch in my pajamas all day. Great. And then you start thinking, wait a minute, I'm getting paid and I should be at work and I've got work to do. Some of you have trouble leaving work in 8 hours. You're getting stuff done all the time and you go home and think about it. Well, now all of a sudden you're on a different pace and schedule. So they feel guilty. I think there's also some that feel like the place is leaving them behind. I'm not sure where that came from. That you're getting left behind. And I think what you're doing is a great way to include people not feeling left behind, feeling like it's something that the organization is doing stuff without them knowing what's going on. So I think you're to be complimented on doing that. Continue to do that and build that social piece into all of it. Just allow them to be themselves when they're on them. Well done. I appreciate that. Anybody else before we jump on? I love it. This is the kind of conversations that I hope we had. This is great. We don't have much time. We're already out of the hour, and I bet some of you are going to log off, and that's fine. Please go download the materials if you have to log off and all. Uncertainty in these times, which is what we have right now, leads to fear, and that's just true. That's the nature of human work. Is that as fear rise, that we become more individualistic. We get our own. We go down in Maslow's hierarchy, right? We go from the top down toward the bottom. For those of you that use Maslow, we become reactive, and sometimes we lose our sense of being part of a bigger world and a bigger organization. I'm going to suggest in the 40 years I was in Maricopa, I mean, I can get so angry at Maricopa and so upset with what's going on. And I still have those two, for those of you that work there, I have those two blue M's tattooed on me somewhere. I swear I do, because it was me. It was an identity. It was who I was. And now all of a sudden people are physically separate from that. So I'm going to encourage us to think about that. There's not a simple answer. But there is a solution, and that solution is each other. And if we can rely on one another through these times, I think we can actually decrease our fear. And so building that connection during social distancing is not easy. I don't like the phrase social distancing. I think it should be physical distancing, because we have to be physically apart. That's what we have to do. And you can call it stay at home is great. That's a better way of saying it than social distancing. I know what was intention. It was a good intention, but it's a bad set of words, because what we should be doing is socially connecting. And we just have to figure out how to do that differently. And there are so many resources nowadays to be able to do that. You know, you can have a free Zoom. It limits you to 40 minutes at a time, but so what? You can make that work. There are those of us around that have Zoom or this, you know, Cisco platform to be able to do this. And I'd use that for you anytime you want. You want to have some kind of meeting and you can't do it yourself, call me and I'll set it up and you run it. You know, there's all kinds of resources if virtual is your connection, but we still have to have that social connection. And by the way, email isn't working right now. It's increasing the sense of isolation, not decreasing it. What I was going to ask you to do, and we're going to kind of flip through this quick, and then you can look at it in the handout if you'd like. There's a book called Vital Friends from Tom Rath, and his belief is there's about 8 categories of people in your life that contribute to your life. And there's a better definition of this in the handout of each of these. But you have people in your life that are builders that help push you to get stuff done. There's some that stand up for you. There's some that collaborate with you because you have similar interests. Some that are always there for you. They're just your companion in life. Bridge builders, they're your energizers in your life. What I'm going to suggest is that you identify who it is that fills these needs in your life. And some of you that have, you know, 1,000 great friends, this will be easy. Some of us, you know, we have to look at this and go, gee, I wonder who that is. And you have to think a little bit. The theory is nobody can fill all 8. It's impossible. And right now we're at home with our significant others or our partners and our kids, and we're kind of expecting them to fill all these needs, and it isn't happening. And then we get frustrated, and you know, the intensity level goes up of being stressed. So I'm going to suggest that you do this and then reach out to those folks. You reach out. We have a tendency right now to say, I'm not going to bother them. I'm not going to be the one that reaches out because I don't want to bother them. It's a tough time. Why should I be infringing upon them? In fact, that's what people want. And I'm even going to suggest many of you would love it if somebody connected with you and said, hey, how are you doing? Or, you know what? You've always been there for me. You've always been somebody that's built that bridge between, you know, people for me. You've always helped me get forward. I really appreciate it. I just want to say thank you. So I would encourage you to do this. And I do this with students, by the way, in some classes, and I have them write handwritten letters to these people. And, you know, first of all, they want to know how they put a stamp on an envelope. But beyond that, it's a really powerful exercise. And they usually get a phone call back with tears and, you know, all that. Well, now I'm encouraging you to do this virtually. Connect with them on social media, have a conversation face to face with somebody maybe that you haven't talked to in a little while, that you'd like to have a conversation with. And this just might be a trigger of who to talk to. That's all this is it's just kind of a gimmick to get you to pick some people to talk to that you might. So then the question would be, how do you leverage your strengths to do that, right? And I'm going to skip the video because we're running a little time. But you, by the way, you can certainly, let me go backwards here. You can certainly get that on any YouTube. Gallup has these unbelievable videos on YouTube. There's one on how CliftonStrengths improve my relationships outside of work. I encourage you to go watch it. It's about 5 minutes long. The Gallup YouTubes are really good. They're really good. So I would encourage you, if you're interested in that, to go. And then the last thing I will close with and let you get on with your lives is I'd like you to consider thinking back through those themes, maybe what we had these conversations, these great conversations with both Kellys and Monica and Tanya, about how you use your strengths in these times. I'd like you to think through your strengths just in general. Think through that bring and need piece. And then complete a sentence. And that is, and we'll just call it a global crisis. Come up with a more positive word, I'm sure. But during this global crisis, I am a member of my community. You define community. I don't know what that is. I don't know what your community is. I don't know if that's your work community or your personal community or bigger than that or smaller than that. That's why it's up to you. During this global crisis, I'm a member of my community. Who? And what do you do? And I heard some of you say that, you know, I strategically encourage the organization to understand others, or that was your empathy and strategic, Kelly. I encourage the organization, or I encourage others around me to find activities to do, or I don't know. Who are you? How do you impact this world? So I'm going to challenge you to do this. And if you be willing and is email me your sentence. I'd love it. I won't share it with anybody unless I have your permission, of course, but send it to me. I would love to hear how each of you are coping with and doing and moving. I use this exercise, by the way, just like bring a need, put a different context on it. I am a leader who, I am a faculty member who, I am a parent who, right? I am a friend who. You change it. It doesn't have to be a member of the community, and it doesn't have to be a global crisis. It could be just, if you'll think through your themes and let that help you write a personal mission, an identity statement around strengths, I think that can be a really powerful tool for you. So, and I love the conversations we had. It's just I'm working on the time limits, so I respect that in everybody. Is why we're not going to just take time to do more of that. I am doing a productive conflict presentation. It's in two parts. The first part will be today in 52 minutes. And we're going to talk about a little bit about civility and what productive conflict is, and the concepts of using interest-based thinking around conflict. Okay. Then next week, on next Thursday, we're actually going to create a script. We're going to help you create a script using the Crucial Conversations paradigm. If you've read that book, comes from the Vital Smarts people around crucial conversations. We're going to go through the steps of crucial conversations, and we're going to ask you, just be yours on your own. You'll be sitting there in your own home doing this, is to write out a conversation you've been avoiding and why. And then we'll go through each of the steps on how you could potentially have that conversation and have it be a successful conversation. And then next Tuesday, we're going to chat for an hour about managing and engaging remote workers and teams. And you've added some fuel to the fire today with some of your comments, and I'd love to have you back and help us chat about that as well. How we are managing teams, and got some data and all to share with you as well. Again, the references and handouts and PowerPoints are on my website, workshop.resources. That you can't reach that from the home page. You have to actually type in workshop resources so that it's a little separated for you all to have, not just out on the public website, although you can share it. I don't care about that. And then my email is scott@inspired-engagement.com. And I, again, would be happy to have a conversation with any of you about your strengths or about something else. I'm just getting ready to write an email out to most of the folks that I've connected with, either as consulting or through the Chair Academy recently, because one of the things that I feel strongly about and that I've talked about my initial webinar was about the power of hope. And that's that belief that tomorrow can be better than today, and that I can contribute to that, that I can be in charge of that and have that happen. It's got tremendous power in students, and how they succeed is if they have high hope skills. My way of building hope is for me to share that, is for me to be part of that. And to do that, I will give myself to any of you that need that right now. This is a time when we're not in it to be paid consultants. We're in it to be part of the world. So I'm not in this any longer as a consultant. I'm in this as a friend. So I'm willing to have free, no connections to anything, future conversations with you to help you build webinars around things that you want to build them with for your team, to offer any kinds of resources that I have. All you need to do is reach out to me. So I am there for you. I won't reach out to you in this group. The people that I work with closer, I'm actually reaching out and directly saying, let's connect on Tuesday. But for you, I'll leave it open to you. But I would encourage you to reach out to me, and I'd be happy to have that. Any closing comments from anybody? Anybody want to clip on or clip off and say anything? You can certainly chat. I'd love your feedback on the page. There's a Gallup, or sorry, a Google Gallup. There's a Google shared feedback form there that you can use through. Somebody's talking and I can't hear you.
Oh, it's Kelly. Sorry.
Hi, Kelly. No, that's okay. Hi.
I keep hitting the wrong.
That's okay. Yeah.
I just want to say thank you very much. This has been really informative, and it's just always a good reminder to those who have completed this strengths to apply it. You know, sometimes we do these different assessment tools and we get our results, or we go to a training and we get the information, and then it just seems to be we quickly move on with our life. And this is a good reminder of take those tools and apply it. So I appreciate all the information you've shared with us today.
Thanks. I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you sharing with everybody. Well, thanks, everybody. I'm going to change the screen so that people will see the other PowerPoint. Probably going to see my screen bounce around. So you can log in, log out, whatever you'd like to do. I will start the productive conflict.
Hi, Scott. This is Monica. Just wanted to say thank you once again.
Oh, yeah.
It was wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Please stay safe and healthy.
Thanks, Monica.
Okay, bye-bye.
I'm not very good at this. This is Tanya. I just wanted to say thank you. I would love to connect with you one-on-one. I will send you an email mainly about these strengths that I'm struggling with greatly. And everyone is saying try to learn to apply them. So maybe I should, give it a try. So if I will take.
Let's do that. Yeah, reach out to me, send me an email so I have your information to connect, and we'll do that. That'd be awesome.
Perfect. Thank you very much for everything. I really appreciated this webinar. It was super helpful and informative.
I'm glad. Thank you, Tanya. We'll be talking soon. Bye, Monica.
Scott, are you still there?
I am.
Oh, I just wrote a question there. This is 11 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, right?
Yes.
So,
Phoenix time, Arizona time.
yeah. So I'm in Ontario in Canada, so we're Eastern Standard Time, which
3 hours.
2 hours.
Three.
Well,
Arizona is a screwed up state because we're not on daylight time. Everybody else is on daylight time.
oh, I see. Okay, so that's why. Well,
On
okay.
Los Angeles time.
Okay, so you're same time. My parents live in British Columbia, so they're 3 hours behind me. So this webinar said it started at 11 a.m. your time, but it looks like you started it at 12 p.m. my time, because a bunch of us were trying to get on, but we thought it started at 1 p.m. our time in Eastern
Okay.
time. So I don't know if you can ask somebody from the chair committee, because I'm trying to figure out when are your other ones, because it's confusing.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't know when to log on.
I'm in the same time as Los Angeles,
Okay.
even though we're in Phoenix, right? So
Right.
another way to say this would be Pacific Daylight Time,
Right.
right? Which you're right, should be the same as, British Columbia in general.
Yeah, it's okay. I'm just looking up here.
So
So
like right now it's 10:15 here.
right. Okay. So that makes
Right.
sense because, well, so
What
okay,
time is
so
it?
then, so you were, so where I am, it's 1:15. So you're
3 hours.
3 hours behind me.
Right.
And so when your thing though says, because it said you were starting at 11 a.m. your time, which would tell me that then it would be 2 p.m. my time. So
Well,
did you start at 9 a.m. your time?
I started unless something went out wrong, I just sent it to the academy and they sent it out.
But even on your one here, your next one, it says productive conflict says 11 a.m.
11. It's going to
So
start
the next
11.
one's-
It's going to start
so
in
it's-
45 minutes.
So it's okay, yeah, because on the okay, so the Chair Academy website must have something wrong then, because it says 11 a.m. for today and 11 a.m. for next week, and then it actually doesn't even give a time zone. And then the one below it about managing and engaging remote workers and teams, it does say the time zone, but again, according to we don't know that you're actually in our time zone. We would be thinking Pacific Standard Time in Canada. If you tell me it's 3 hours behind, for us, Mountain Standard Time is only 2 hours behind. So I'm not sure if you can connect. I don't know anybody there.
The only thing I'll correct for you is let me put it in this context. I do a lot of work with Alberta, right?
Yep.
So most of the year I'm on exactly the same time as Alberta.
Right.
But as soon as everybody else in the world goes on daylight time,
Yeah.
I am now an hour Alberta.
Yeah, it's just that we have no way of telling that. So,
Okay. So I will ask Monica, was just on this last call, and I'll check in with her and have her actually go on the website and double check and maybe
clarify
make it
for even, I
clearer.
guess we need a clarification for Canadians
Yeah,
and Americans
yeah.
and non-Arizonians. So, so yeah, that would be
Sure.
good. So then next week, your part 2 is
Yeah.
going to be, what time are you starting that your time?
Well, let's see. Part 2 on this one
Yeah.
is supposed to be at the same time, same exact time as this, only it's next Thursday. So it's this one is Thursday.
Okay, but so you just said you said you've just actually started. So have you, I don't even know if
I
I was
haven't
on the right
started yet.
one.
No, I
Okay.
just finished one. I had 2 back to back today with an hour in between.
Oh, I see. So I
So
just actually logged into one that wasn't the one I was looking at, I guess. So you're
what
saying
you
you
logged
got the
into
one
was
at,
the end of the strengths one. We did one around CliftonStrengths,
oh, okay,
and that started at 9 a.m. my time.
right.
Should have been noonish your time.
Okay.
Does that sound right?
Now I
Is that right?
understand. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And then this one starts at 11. So what I did is I didn't log out of the meeting. I just put up
Mm,
the next slide because right now, there's still 5, including you. There's 5 people logged in.
I
So
see.
I'm guessing some of them might have stayed on. Some of them might have logged in early like you did because of the timing difference. So that's why I have my slide up here with the 11.
Okay. All right. Well, unfortunately, so you're starting your next one at 40
Yeah,
minutes or
about
something, right?
40 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't unfortunately attend that, but maybe we'll see you next week. But now at least I know when I see you, I should add 3
Yeah.
hours and not 2.
And Lisa, take that website there, that inspiredengagement.com at workshop dash resources, and
Okay.
you can download the PowerPoint and the worksheet or the handout from today and from next week.
Okay, good.
And then
Sounds
I'll
good.
offer to you, if you've got other people around you that wanted to do this and couldn't, we'll just do it again. I'm at home. I'm retired enough from every other kind of work that I'm a consultant. So and some of that work is lessened. I'm still staying pretty busy with coaching and doing things, but I have plenty of time, and with no issue at all, we'll just
Okay.
redo it. And I'm actually going to move some of these. I think I'm going to move them over to Zoom.
Okay.
The two platforms are virtually the same.
Yeah.
But some people seem to log in a little easier on Zoom than they do on this. But I thought, was this
Okay.
easy for you to log into? Any issues?
You know what? We actually are using pretty much all 3 platforms right now.
Yeah, so it doesn't really matter.
So, yeah, it doesn't really matter to me either way. So,
But I would love to, and even if it's between now and Thursday, Lisa, that you would like to
yeah.
go through part 1, especially if there's anybody else.
It's okay.
I'd be happy to.
We even thought, like, even now my one friend, she was going to go on and she's like, no, I can't. No, so we are from our health portfolio and we are swamped. So,
Okay.
but I appreciate the offer and I will keep trying to check in and see when you do have stuff and definitely keep it in mind.
Please do, or just email me what you want.
Okay.
Serious. That's not a light offer. I mean that very seriously. You email me. My email's on the screen right now. You
Yeah.
email me,
Yeah.
and I will connect with you, and we will do whatever you want to do for you and your team. It doesn't have to be a large group. I don't care.
Okay. Thanks,
Right
Scott,
now,
very much.
well, right now we have to all do this together.
Yeah.
We have to.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would love to do that. So if you'll reach out to me, you and I will work together and we'll make something happen.
All right, we'll see. I have to get my head through what we're in right now first, but maybe we'll get there. Okay.
But this isn't what we're going through isn't temporary.
No, it's going to be very different, but there's a lot of hurdles right now. So, okay, well, thanks very much, Scott. I'm glad I clarified the time zone
Yeah,
thing.
me
So
too.
hopefully I'll be able
Okay.
to catch something on time and I'll let anyone else at my end know as well.
Great. Okay. Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, Scott. Bye.
Be well. Bye-bye.